And we gonna get started. Okay, so welcome to the, make sure I got, okay, cool. Welcome to the 38th episode of the Revolutionary Code, where we bring the truth about how governmental politics actually works in every facet of human existence, how that affects our people, mainly the Black people here in America. I'm your host, Brother Tamani Mwandani out of Houston, Texas. I am the direct revolutionary product of one Cardinal and Bayou Chewy out of the Shrines of the Black Madonna, and an indirect revolutionary product of one Albert B. Clegg Jr., African name Jeramogi Bebe Ajiman, the father of liberation theology and the founder of the Shrines of the Black Madonna. I am also the founder of the Black Gold Nation movement. My co-host, the National Director of Political Strategy and Implementation for the Black Gold Nation movement, and the chairman of LACE, Liberation Advocates for Community Empowerment, the intellectual gangster, corporate grassroots revolutionary, and master domino assassin from Shreveport, Louisiana, aka The Boot, Brother Craig B. Lee. Brother Craig, how you doing this evening?
I am doing Irie. Very, very excited to be here this week since we have helped my good partner Troy Carter in New Orleans become the new congressman from District 2, House District 2 in New Orleans, Louisiana. So I'm hyped.
Excellent. All right. So our ultimate goal in the Black Gold Nation movement is to bring our people together as rapidly as possible so we can identify the right Black people who want to do something that matters. And what we're trying to do is put our people in the position to win. And we don't believe we can, in this movement, we don't believe we can win if we don't control the space where we live. So every single thing we do is about bringing our people together to find the right people so we can get them on the right track to helping us build something that matters, which is power. We're not here to just entertain or inform you. We're trying to inform, educate, motivate, mobilize, organize, and build something. We try to get you to do something. So we're not here just to give you information. We want you to do something with that information, and we hope that what you do will be joining us as we build powerful Black people nationwide. Tonight's show title is The Power of Unrighteous Politics and Andrew Brown Jr. Case Analysis and Study. The Power of Unrighteous Politics and Andrew Brown Jr. Case Analysis and Study. So tonight's show is sponsored by Regeneration 180's, Regeneration 180's Regeneration Freedom School, excuse me. The Black Gold Nation Movement's youth education model and program. With the Black Gold Nation Movement, we fully understand and believe that we can't accomplish anything without knowledgeable, capable, and willing youth who are prepared to take our place. And Sister Jennifer Higgins, the Black Gold Nation Movement's National Youth Education Division Director, is doing just that with her Critical Thinkers Club for young Black children ages 6 to 9 and 10 to 13 every Saturday and Sunday. So the purpose of the Critical Thinkers Club is to teach our children critical thinking skills and, most importantly, how to use those skills to move the race forward. To learn more about Regeneration 180, Regeneration 180's Freedom School, and or the Critical Thinkers Club, please visit her website at www.regeneration180.org/teen-self-work. I will place that link in the chat if anybody's interested, or if you're interested in sharing it with someone. We will go from there. Okay, so really quickly before we get into tonight's show, let me begin by sadly, unfortunately, saying our hearts and prayers go out to the family, friends, and loved ones of Brother Andrew Brown Jr., who is the subject of tonight's show. So, the power of unrighteous politics and Andrew Brown Jr. Case Analysis and Study. Let's get into it. Before we get started, watch this video, Brother Craig. Let's start with a few definitions to try and make sure everybody's on the same page. What is your definition of politics?
Man, if you ask me my definition of politics, one more
90.
I'm gonna start saying refer. Okay, this will be the last time I'll start saying refer to previous episodes.
Nah, just put it up on the screen. But again, politics is an individual or group agenda, whether it be by way of government, family, business, social relationships. It is a much broader concept than what most people talk about. And we refer back to the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, and you heard the Daniel Kaluuya, who is playing the role of Fred Hampton, say, in terms of talking about war and politics, politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed. And there's some elements of truth to that, but it's even broader than that. And it covers the scope of whatever an individual or group of individuals have as their agenda as relates to what they want to accomplish by way of government, by way of business, by way of marriage, by way of family politics. I mean, it covers the realm of all those things.
Okay, so is it safe to say, of course, as we have said multiple times, that politics really is everything?
Everything.
Yeah. All right.
Everything.
So if politics is everything, and if you have no political intelligence, you have no political insight, you have no political agenda, no political involvement or activity, and no political engagement. If you don't have any of that, what do you have, Brother Craig? Dry bones in the valley. All right. So,
You ain't got
you ain't got nothing. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm gonna share this video. That's going to, it's a news report. It's about 20 minutes, but there's a lot of information in this report. I'm not sure if you've seen it, Brother Craig, but I'm sure you'll pick up on all the critical pieces and we'll come back and talk about it. So I'm sharing my screen right now. I need 2 people to verify when you can see it.
We can see it.
Cool. One more.
Yes, I can see it.
Cool. All right, here we go.
Democracy Now!, democracynow.org.
You can hear it, right, Craig?
Yeah.
Cool.
Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York City, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Well, hundreds of demonstrators have taken to the streets of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, for a 5th day to protest last week's police killing of Andrew Brown, a 42-year-old black father. On Monday, authorities allowed Brown's family and attorneys to watch a 20-second video clip of the shooting. The family says it shows Andrew Brown was shot in the back of the head while his hands were on the steering wheel of his car. His son, Khalil Farabee, described the shooting as an execution.
It's like we against all odds in this world. My dad got executed just by trying to save his own life. You know, he was not in the officers was not in no harm of him at all. It's just messed up how this happened, man. For real. Execution. For real. He got executed. It ain't right. It ain't right at all.
Chantel Cherry Lassiter, an attorney for Andrew Brown's family, described what she saw in the 20-second snippet.
Andrew Brown was in his driveway. The sheriff truck blocked him in his driveway, so he could not exit his driveway. Andrew had his hands on his steering wheel. He was not reaching for anything. He wasn't touching anything. He wasn't throwing anything around. He had his hands firmly on the steering wheel. They run up to his vehicle shooting. He still stood there, sat there in his vehicle with his hands on the steering wheel while being shot at. Now keep in mind, this is 20 seconds. I have 3 pages of notes for 20 seconds. We watched this over and over and over to make sure we were clear at what was going on and what was transpiring.
Attorney Ben Crump, who's also representing Andrew Brown's family, called on authorities to publicly release all body cam footage.
We want to say on the record from the onset, we do not feel that we got transparency. Okay. We only saw a snippet of the video. When we know that the video started before and after what they showed the family. And they determined what was pertinent. Why couldn't the family see all the video? They only showed one body cam video, even though we know there were several body cam videos if they were following the law and the policy in this county that everybody has video cameras on their uniforms.
Andrew Brown was shot dead April 21st while the county sheriff's office was attempting to serve him an arrest warrant on drug charges. Officials in Elizabeth City have already declared a state of emergency ahead of the public release of the body cam footage, warning it could result in a period of civil unrest. At least 8 officers were at the scene of the shooting. 7 sheriff's deputies have already been placed on paid administrative leave. 2 other deputies have resigned and another retired over the past week. This is attorney Bakari Sellers, who's also representing the Brown family.
Only in this country can you have the trial of Derek Chauvin be interrupted by the death of Dante Wright, be interrupted by the death of Adam Toledo, be interrupted by the death of Ma'Khia Bryant, and now we find ourselves here in Elizabeth City.
The Reverend William Barber was also there yesterday. On Saturday, Reverend Barber of the Poor People's Campaign traveled to Elizabeth City to meet with the family of Andrew Brown.
It happened to a man. It happened to a father of 7. It happened to a cousin, to a nephew. He's not a caricature. He's a man.
That's right. Yes.
A young 42-year-old black man.
Yes.
Say his name.
Andrew Brown.
The Reverend William Barber joins us now, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, president of Repairers of the Breach. Welcome back to Democracy Now!, Reverend. Let's begin with yesterday. What a scene unfolded. As the family had been promised at 11:30 in the morning, they'd been shown unedited video of what happened to Andrew Brown. It went on, they waited for hour after hour, and then they go inside and they're shown a 20-second snippet. Can you explain what took place? You were there outside, what they saw, and what you're demanding.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. And, you know, we have 3 powerful attorneys that are representing the family. Harry Daniels, who's representing the one of the mothers and 5 siblings. People have to know there are 5 minor children and 2 grown children. And he's also representing one of the aunts. And then you have Attorney Ben Crump and Bakari Sellers representing the older children, and they're all combined and working together. Let me set a context, Amy, and that is the sheriff and the DA, and we need to start saying the DA, because the county lawyer is not the DA. The sheriff and the DA could have gotten all of this done within an hour or so. The law simply says a judge has to do it, and all it would have needed is the sheriff and the DA, or the DA alone could have gone to the judge and said, this needs to be released. And we're in the context of when something happened like this in Columbus, it was released, Columbus, Ohio, it was released almost immediately. And the same thing could happen in North Carolina, just would have been one extra step. When we went there, this young man, 42 years old, and by the way, never had, no gun was found, no drugs were found, and this boy has no history of any kind of violence or violence on his record. They had been promised, we had been promised to see the tape. I was there. They didn't even let all the family in. They didn't let some of the aunts in. They literally closed the door and wouldn't let them in. And yesterday represented 120 hours since this murder. And in fact, I want to mention to you that this is the second one on the East Coast since and during the Chauvin trial. There's another one called Donovan Lynch in Virginia Beach, who was also shot. And in his instance, there were no body cameras. They cut the cameras off. So now we have Andrew Brown. They waited 120 hours to get 20 seconds. 120 hours to get 20 seconds. That is absolutely ridiculous. We also learned on Saturday, because one of the local reporters asked us in the press conference, what did we think about them using a SWAT-like team to go get this one person that they allegedly had a warrant for. And you know, a warrant is not a license to kill. A warrant doesn't mean you get executed on the spot. A warrant doesn't mean you're guilty. And there's the Supreme Court has said if you flee, it is not illegal, that people don't have a right to shoot you in the back. And we know from the audio reports he was shot in the back.
The back of the head.
In the back of the head, that's right. And we don't know how many shots. Today there's going to be an independent autopsy that will be actually released. But 20 seconds after 120 hours, that is absolutely unacceptable. And they were promised that they would be able to see it. Now, one last thing. They said they needed to redact the film. Now, this is the people that's supposed to be doing the investigation. In national security matters, you redact. But the national security here they haven't shown the tapes. And the family wasn't even asking that the whole public. They were saying, can we and our lawyers see this? And they said, no, we have to redact the tape. We've got to do certain things with the tape. Well, and this is problematic. The last thing you should know is the DA there could have asked the state attorney general to come take this over, because they bungled it and fumbled it. He could easily say, I want the state attorney general. And you have to know, in North Carolina, the state attorney general can't just take it over. The law says the local DA must ask. And today we're meeting with pastors. The North Carolina NAACP repairs the breach, the AME Zion Church, the North Carolina Council of Church. We're meeting with some of the lawyers, and afterwards we're going to announce and declare a moral emergency and a justice emergency. There's no real emergency in the city. There's been no violence. It's all been peaceful and everything. So the real emergency here is a moral emergency and a judicial emergency.
Barber, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that the autopsy results will be available soon, but this issue of the number of shots fired, the police know that. They knew that immediately. They could have at least said this number of shells were spent by all of the officers on the scene. It seems to me, especially given the fact that we're hearing that 2 officers have already resigned and 1 retired, that clearly is a signal when some police are leaving immediately before even any investigation is through, that this is a horrendous shooting. Your thoughts about this whole issue of not even giving information on the number of bullets fired, and also is there a role for the governor here to step in some way or other on this case?
Yeah, the governor has already said that the tape should be released, and so has the state attorney general. The tape should be released. North Carolina does not make its body cam automatic public record. Now, that bill is sitting in the General Assembly right now, and the Republican legislature has blocked it, and even some of the police associations have fought against it. But it could be passed in 20 seconds right now if they wanted to do that. But you're exactly right in terms of things that could have been done immediately. We could have known exactly how many officers went and why that many officers went. We could know what kind of team went. Was this just sheriffs? Was this some kind of SWAT team? We could know what kind of weapons they used. Was it pistols? Was it assault rifles? And we should be able to know exactly how many shots were fired. All of those things could have been done almost immediately, or at least within the first day. And none of that has taken place. This is one of the reasons why we have to challenge this issue. I was looking at a report from News One done last year, I believe, and it showed how there were these 8 white killers, some are mass murderers, like Dalen Roof, who was arrested and some say even got a hamburger. But all of these persons were white. They were arrested. Some of them resisted arrest. They killed people. All of them were arrested. None of them ended up dead. But too often we hear about black men being shot in the back or black women being shot in their beds by these police. And what we say is that, and it doesn't matter even if some of the cops were black, that doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is a gun and a badge and the ability to take a piece of paper and extract your loved one from your home or wherever they are is too much power for a bigot and for a trigger-happy officer that can literally kill people in my name because they get their power from the state. That's also why, Amy, and why we need federal laws. What we really need is when and if police murder or execute someone. And we know that we need accountability, we need arrest, we need prosecution without immunity, we need the appropriate prison time. And some of us are beginning to say we need payment, and it doesn't all need to come from insurance companies that's paid for by the taxpayers. It needs to come out of these people's pensions and from these police departments. And then we need pattern and practices investigations. This is Eastern North Carolina. There's a long history of this. My father, I was raised here in this area, and I'm about just a few miles from where I live. Is Elizabeth City. It's the home of Elizabeth City State University. It's the Black Belt of North Carolina. It's where slave patrols used to chase down black people heavily, because this is where the most of the slavery was in North Carolina. I can remember in the 1970s, my father was fighting against police in the Eastern North Carolina and a sheriff in another county who almost made it a habit to shoot somebody every so often who was African American. So there's a lot of undercover things that are going on here. This is the same Eastern North Carolina where in the last few years we helped three African American men who were put in jail for murder, only to be found that they were not guilty and released after 20 and 22 years in jail. And even a young man over in Wilson, which is in Eastern North Carolina, that was put in jail and was threatened with life imprisonment, only to find out he didn't do the killing. So this is Eastern North Carolina. This is the South. And that's why we must pay a lot of attention to this and understand what's going on here. Because this case is about Andrew Brown. It's about the South. And it could break open some things in the South, because some of the most horrendous laws, the most restrictive laws when it comes to policing, some of the most egregious things that have happened down through the years have happened in these southern, small, rural counties across America.
And I'm wondering, Reverend Barber, in the wake of the guilty verdict for Derek Chauvin, and after now nearly a year of massive protests all around the country in terms of Black Lives Matter, your sense of these killings continue to happen as if these police departments are not heeding or listening to the massive outcry in not only in the African American community, but among people of color and people of goodwill everywhere. Your thoughts about what's happening right now in terms of law enforcement in the country?
Well, it makes everybody unsafe. I mean, you look at these marches, even in Eastern North Carolina, they're mixed, black and white and brown and Native and Asian and gay and straight and young and old. I mean, that's one of the things people understand, that rogue cops or a systemic problem within policing makes us all unsafe. When you don't have any transparency and trust, that we're all in tremendous danger. It is a violation not only of humanity, it's a violation of fundamental constitutional rights, and it is very dangerous. As I said, I'm a nonviolent person. I practice nonviolent, but the only person I know that can come to my door with a piece of paper and take my wife, my children out, or someone I love and just take them, and I don't resist and don't say, no, you can't have them, is an officer of the law. That's the only person that I'll say to my loved ones, I'll see you downtown. That is too much power. And we've got to get in. That's why we have to have these federal laws. We can't have one standard in one county with one DA and one sheriff, and then another standard in another county, and then another standard in another county. And I will tell you what people are saying. Even my sons, they said, Daddy, it almost looks like and feels like Chauvin gets arrested and gets prosecuted, and there's an increase. Like we're going to get them now. Now, that can't be proven, but people feel like that. They say, what is going on? The more these officers get exposed, it seems like they're getting more reckless.
And Reverend Barber, just making that point, you have Chauvin verdict comes down last Tuesday. On Wednesday, 2 men are shot. For people who are confused, you have Anthony Brown in North Carolina. He is shot dead by sheriff's deputies. Okay. On the same day in Virginia, A black man was hospitalized after he was shot by sheriff's deputy who responded to a 911 call less than an hour earlier. The same sheriff's deputy drove that same man, Isaiah Brown, not Anthony Brown, Isaiah Brown, home after Brown's car broke down. Isaiah Brown was unarmed, was holding a cordless phone in his hand when the officer fired 7 shots at him. Brown's family said he was on the line with the police, with 911, when he was shot. Can you comment on this? And then finally, this demand for the George Floyd Police Accountability Act.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're exactly right, and shot 7 times. I want folk to hear the multiplicity of bullets. We're not talking about shot. So one time is enough, but shot 7 times. As we said, we don't know how many shots. They said the car was riddled with bullets with Andrew Brown, and then don't forget, in the midst of the Chauvin trial, you got Donovan Lynch, who was shot in Virginia Beach and killed, and that case is being dealt with. And then we've had 2 teenagers that were killed. All of this during and after the trial. I mean, this is the pandemic of injustice and the pandemic of police brutality and violence, and it must be held accountable. I mean, a police person must be held accountable for murder. And let us not forget, in the South, when Walter Scott was shot in the back, it took federal prosecution to get that particular officer, Michael Slake, I believe. It took federal, but the state didn't even prosecute him. It took federal. And then let us not forget what it took to get Chauvin. It took millions of people marching. It took a 9-minute video by a young girl. It took the attorney general. It took calling a prosecutor out of retirement. It took police turning on themselves. People who thought the Chauvin trial represented some fundamental shift are actually mistaken. That is one case, but that has not dealt with the systematic issues that we're addressing. And Amy, we must have this bill. Many of us are looking at it to see if it needs to be even stronger, because I'm going to tell you, one of the things that a lot of these people count on is to continue the immunity, but also they know that if they kill someone and they're tried in the state and they get acquitted in the state, they can't be tried again. And you know, from the civil rights movement, oftentimes the Klan did things because they knew they weren't going to get found guilty at the local level, and if they got charged at the federal level, they only face 5 years. We must make sure that these federal laws are of such that it's automatic that there's going to be prosecution, and there will be a penalty that meets what a penalty for murder ought to be. And there's not going to be any immunity, and there will be arrest. And we're going to have laws that say there will be independent prosecution, not these local prosecutors that are tied in with the police departments and those things. That's what has to happen. And I like what Garland is doing, the new Attorney General, and it's going to have to happen not only in Louisville, not only in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but it's going to happen in places like Elizabeth City and Pasquotank County and in the South. This is serious business. It is systemic. I don't care even if Lindsey Graham says racism is not systemic. It's systemic in voting, it's systemic in healthcare, it's systemic in economic, and it's certainly systemic when it comes to police violence against people of color.
Well, we want to thank you, Reverend Dr. William Barber, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, president of Repairers of the Breach, longtime North Carolina Reverend, as he continues to deal with what's happening in Elizabeth City, in Virginia, in Columbus, Ohio. And a correction, I said Anthony Brown. I meant Andrew Brown, the man who was killed in North Carolina. Ma'Khia Bryant, the 16-year-old, was killed in Columbus, Ohio. The teenager who was 16 years old, 1 year younger than the video, than the young woman who filmed the murder of George Floyd. Ma'Khia Bryant was killed by police on the day that the Chauvin verdict came down. Then the next day, Andrew Brown was killed. Isaiah Brown was shot by police.
And Donovan Lynch. Don't forget Donovan Lynch. You need to know about that case. Because in this fight, Amy, we can't just be bothered when white cop kills a black person. Even if it's a black person who shoots an unarmed black person. In Donovan Lynch's case, it was a black and a white officer. It does not matter. Police don't care what your color is. I don't care if you shoot somebody white, black, brown, native. If it's a bad shoot, it's a murder or an execution that must be prosecuted. So call Donovan Lynch, call Andrew Brown, call Micaiah, little Adam Toledo up in Chicago. This is just too much, and we must unite. We must fight this, and we've got laws and standards. They got 20 seconds after 120 hours. 120 hours, they only got 20 seconds.
All right. That was a long one, but a lot of information was discussed, and I wanted to get into some of those details. Okay. All right, Brother Craig, we're gonna do this in reverse. Let's start by talking about what righteous political power could do. Question number one: what are the key elements per political office and appointed positions in this case? What are the key political players in this kind of case?
So the number one entity is the district attorney.
Yeah.
The number two entity is the police chief, and both of those entities, the power is in the hands of the voters.
Yeah.
The police chief is recommended by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. The DA is elected by the people. Then you have right now your attorney general for the state. That's elected by the people. And so that's your situation at the current time frame. So all of those positions, the people have the power to elect them. And because the people are not in the process and they don't understand how this process works, they sit on the sideline.
Yep.
And these types of cases, unfortunately, I've come to understand are necessary. Creator makes them necessary to get Negroes off of their asses, because the Negro is constantly wanting their oppressor to do the right thing, and it ain't never gonna happen. And what's so interesting about this case with Andrew Brown, the Isaiah Brown, the Micaiah Bryant, all of these things, and also the young 13-year-old who murdered the other 13-year-old in Cincinnati right after the Micaiah Bryant situation. See, the Creator is moving expeditiously to put Negroes on notice.
Yeah.
And enough is enough of the tokenism, selloutism, and the Negroism. Now you say, well, what do you mean, Craig? There were people actually cheering, happy that Derek Chauvin was convicted. And I'm like, what the hell are you cheering for? Because they ain't a goddamn thing gonna change.
Right.
See, so what the hell are you cheering? Because boom, you're gonna see. Now I didn't know it was gonna happen so quickly.
Yeah, and it's happening too.
And so it's like the Negro just don't get this at all.
Yep.
And it's just too much idealism and romanticism. They just don't get it at all. Period.
Yeah, and it's funny that, and I'm glad you mentioned how the DA, chief of police, and the AG of the state, how they come to be, because my next question was going to be how many of those positions are elected. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, all of them are elected except for the police chief.
Right,
but the police chief is a byproduct of who is the mayor, because that's who recommends him.
That's right, and the city council.
City council, that's who confirms it.
Yeah.
So even if the mayor recommends his ass, legitimate city council can stop it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay. So any idea who gathers the information for a warrant? Who gathers that information? Do you know?
When you say who gathers the information, what do you mean?
Yeah. So who determines that there is enough information here that there needs to be a warrant for this person's arrest?
The investigator. So you have
the lead investigator.
Investigators on either the police department or the sheriff department or the marshal's department.
Okay.
They gather the intel. Then you get with the district attorney, and then you collaborate with some judge.
That's right.
Some judge.
Yep.
And that's the loop right there.
Yeah, and the judge signs the warrant, right?
Yeah.
Right, and of course, those who execute that warrant that goes back to the chief of police.
Yeah, well, whoever the law enforcement agency is, it could be the
sheriff or whomever,
the sheriff department, or it could be the marshal.
Okay, all right, and we're learning now with this particular case about who's responsible for when things go wrong during the execution of that warrant. So you just said that you just proven why politics is so important.
Exactly.
Because it's everything as it relates to what happens in your life.
Exactly.
People control, the water, the streets, the construction, the jobs, the contracts, the police, all of it. And that's why I asked the question. That's why I asked the question, if you have no political intelligence, no political insight, no political agenda, no political involvement or activity, and no political engagement, not only what do you have, but what can you realistically expect to change if you don't have any of that?
Well, I mean, that's where the idealism, that's where the romanticism, that's where the, talk about Jesus and God and Allah comes in. Everybody got to do something except for your goddamn self.
Except for yourself, right?
And it's just, when I discuss these issues here in Shreveport and throughout the country, I always just say, man, I got to take my hat off to these white folks, because
got to give it to them.
They have done a masterful job of getting melanated people, especially, to believe that they're powerless to do a goddamn thing.
Right.
And the only time, and what's so funny, if you heard about all the goddamn lawyers that's involved on the damn Brown case.
That's right.
You got a goddamn aunt talking about, what the hell are you on a goddamn pay for? Everybody now positioning themselves to get paid.
That's right.
And most of them probably ain't never even talked to this goddamn dude.
Yep.
So now, based on, and this is how the creator is working this thing, because this is a dude who probably didn't even vote. All right.
Yep.
He probably wasn't, because they were serving him a drug warrant, so he wasn't involved in no damn city council meetings or no school board meetings and whatnot, even with 7 children. But now because of some racist cop, he's now going to be viewed, i.e. just like George Floyd, as some kind of damn martyr, right? It's the craziest thing, but the creator is making it happen to show grassroots people, if you don't get off your ass, this can happen to you or your children at the drop of a hat.
Right.
And no matter what they see, they still ain't gonna do nothing, because all Benjamin Crump and those attorneys are focused on is a goddamn settlement. Ain't none of these cases went to trial.
Right.
Think about that now.
Yeah.
Ain't none of these cases went to trial. They just getting a goddamn settlement. So what are you really focused on?
Right.
Goddamn money. You ain't focused on no damn justice. You ain't focused on no damn justice.
Yeah, and you don't have a real agenda or plan to ensure that this kind of stuff stops happening. Because if you were really about justice, you'd be trying to put some things in place to make sure that they're happening more. But anyway, moving on. Okay, so of the 3 positions you mentioned, the DA, Chief of Police, and the AG of the state, which one is the most important or powerful in this kind of situation?
The damn DA.
Excellent. Okay, so if you were the DA, you of course, righteous black man, love black people on the grassroots level, want to do some things. If you were the DA, what would be the first 2 or 3 things you do to ensure justice is had in this case?
But see, here's the thing. This is just one case.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't look at just one case because the DA has to rely on the law enforcement agency to bring certain things to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where now I define politics.
Right.
See, politics ain't just
one spot.
Yeah, it just ain't one aspect.
Right. Well, you can't be more than one person, so you can only choose one.
Yeah. So you got law enforcement politics working with the district attorney.
Right.
And so the district attorney has to look at this particular case, but also down the road, because if he goes too hard in the paint on the cops, now the cops will pull back on evidence that he may need in another case. They may not thoroughly investigate. Man, it's all game.
Okay,
man.
all right, okay. So, all right. Shit. So so that means what I'm hearing you say is, as we mobilize and organize our people on the grassroots level, we can afford to mobilize and or organize for one position.
Hell no.
We got to mobilize and organize for multiple positions at the same time, simultaneously, to understand that this is a system.
Exactly.
So we got to have as many righteous people as possible on our side in this system so we can eliminate some of these things that happen to our people. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Exactly. And that's why the case that's up right now in Washington, D.C., where the Negro did a got you on the brother who graduated from Howard University, who was a law enforcement officer, is strictly straight up asinine, where he said to the guy, "Oh, you gonna shoot me like Ma'Khia Bryant?" And the dude said, "You gonna stab somebody?"
Right.
And so I'm gonna put you on TikTok. I'm gonna put you on TikTok. Now, what's so asinine about that? Here's a brother. Here's a goddamn brother, graduate of Howard, who's trying to do the right thing. Fool, you gotta have inside connections in the goddamn police department. I got partners who are on the police department and relatives. I got relatives and partners on the sheriff department, partners on the marshal department, partners in the goddamn FBI.
Yep.
You don't have inside connect in the damn law enforcement agency. If you take over the apparatus at the local level, who then are you gonna put as the damn chief of police, as the goddamn sheriff, as the goddamn, the Negro is just, who goddamn that? Who they make me sick?
But you gonna get some TikTok likes. Yeah, see, you thinking about a chess move, and he might be playing marbles. He might be playing marbles. Okay. All right, so if you missed the beginning of the show, you're listening to the Revolutionary Code, where we bring you the truth about how governmental politics actually works in every facet of human existence and how that affects our people, melanated black people here in America. Tonight's show is our 36th episode and is titled The Power of Unrighteous Politics, an Andrew Brown Jr. Case Analysis and Study. My name is Tamani Mwandani. I'm the father of the Black Nation Movement. And my co-host this evening is Brother Craig B. Lee, the National Director of our Political Strategy and Implementation Department. Okay, Brother Craig, next question. Now, the DA, Chief of Police, and the AG for the state, would you say that they are all, well, it's kind of obvious, but are they all working together? Are they all complicit in the withholding of the information, the warrant being issued, multiple shots being fired, shot in the back? I mean, are they all in cahoots, or is it possible that one could not be, in cahoots, but he or she might not have a choice because of the system that they exist within?
Look.
Come on.
This is a micro system.
Yeah.
Each one of these agencies have lobbyists. They lobby the goddamn legislature for various laws to protect them. So now, the question was asked by Ben Crump, why can't the family see all the video? So then you ask, why isn't body camera footage allowed? Now I want to ask, let's just ask anybody on the call, why can't the family see all of the video? And why isn't the body camera footage allowed for the public to see? Why is that? It's 2 words. I'll give you a hint. 2 words. Anybody?
Cover up.
Okay, cover up. All right, anybody else? Public policy. Public policy. You see, the state legislators are lobbied by the lobbyists from the law enforcement agency and the district attorney offices in the state, and various judges who roll with them. All of them work together. And so now in North Carolina, they want to make it as difficult as possible to now have the public being able to put pressure on the local officials and the state officials and the federal officials. So how do you now do that? You create public policy that disallows the individuals to see the goddamn video. So now Ben Crump has to come, and he's supposed to be a lawyer. So now we get back into what do I call it? Romanticism and idealism. Oh, they should be able to. They should be able to. Look at what Reverend Barber say. Well, the Republicans have been blocking this from happening because they got the bill in the legislature. Okay, so he's correct. He said, but it could be passed in 20 seconds. Mm-hmm. No goddamn Republicans going to sign off on that.
Yeah.
You see, so if you don't get involved in the process at the local level,
yep,
and then at the state level, bro, they're going to keep on putting policies on your ass, yep, that's going to go against your best interest, man. That's simple, man.
Yeah, and it's sad and unfortunate that we don't fully understand how interwoven all of these different agencies are. So we think, believe. Yeah, we believe that we believe that presidential politics is going to change it. We believe that voting in a good mayor is going to change it, but we don't understand that, like you just said, these agencies work together. They're in concert, and it's all a part of a system.
Let me break this down. So when you got the DA's office and a case comes up, bruh, if your ass ain't voting, your punk ass can't even serve on the jury. Then you got Negroes whose jury number is. I've been waiting. I've been hoping. As active as I am in politics, they ain't never called me.
They probably got your number.
One time, and I was going out of town, and I can't wait to serve on a goddamn jury. So I put somebody on death row. Don't let him be nobody white. I'm gonna put his ass on death row. He wasn't even in town.
He did it. All right, now that's a perfect segue to this next point. And you've talked about this in other shows. Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Guess what the demographics are? Black to white.
Probably 70% Negro, 30% white.
Not quite 70, but they are the majority. Elizabeth City is 50.5% Black.
Okay.
And I watched a previous Reverend Barber video. He says that Elizabeth City has a long history of police corruption dating back to the 60s. So what does that tell us? It's 50% Black. What does that tell us about what's possible and what's never been done?
Yeah, they can take over the city, and they haven't. Grassroots to take over the city. But that's why you got to know the difference between, the factions of African Americans, so you don't get caught up believing that just because you're melanated, that person is Black.
Right.
And that's where a lot of the ignorance, the apathy, the pessimism, and the cynicism comes in. So that's how I ended up creating the 6 factions of African descendants.
Right.
Because now what those Negroes will say, man, we voted for such and such, and he sold us out. Negro, he wasn't no grassroots Black person.
He wasn't on your side from the beginning.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And just based on your recollection, how many Black people who died at the hands of police, how many of them have occurred in predominantly Black spaces? Just based on what you can remember.
Oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember
ballpark figure, ballpark number.
In terms of police,
so let's say
of them.
Philando Castile, Freddie Gray. I mean, like the
Freddie Gray majority African American city. Mike Brown majority African American city.
Right.
Philando Castile majority white. City, we're talking about Minnesota. Eric Garner, majority white.
What's the brother that was running and got shot by the 2 white dudes? That was majority Black as well, wasn't it?
That's Scott, Walter Scott.
Walter Scott.
That was Charleston. Charleston
might be 50-50. I don't know, but no, that's not the one. I'm talking about the young brother that was running, and 2 white dudes, a father and son, got in their truck and chased him.
Oh yeah, that's a majority Black.
Majority Black. Yeah. And the sister that was shot in their home.
Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah, and the sister that was shot in their home with her boyfriend, he shot back once.
That's white. That's white.
So my point is that a lot of these incidents occur in predominantly Black spaces.
Yeah, if they're not
repeatedly, they occur.
if they're not specifically an African American city or county, it's typically majority African American neighborhood or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are, quite a few of them will be white because now you're being targeted. Like, old boy in New Brunswick was running in a majority white neighborhood, although New Brunswick is a majority Negro town. So all of that factors in. That's why I sent you the video the other day of the young melanated Negroes playing basketball in that town. They didn't know the danger that they were in.
Right.
They really didn't know the danger.
Yep.
And playing games, and they could have easily came up missing. They don't even understand.
And it doesn't matter how you feel about the law, because they were getting upset because they couldn't play basketball. But the law is the law. You have no footing. So just leave and go play somewhere else. All right. So last question. Reverend Barber said that the North Carolina NAACP, repairs of the breach, his organization, the AME Zion Church, and the North Carolina Council of Churches are going to declare a moral and justice emergency. What do you expect is going to happen as a result of that particular move?
I know white folks don't give a damn about it. I mean, they remember now the NBA All-Star game was scheduled to be in Charlotte about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The state legislature passed the bill against the homosexuality thing, and which was actually a good law, to be honest. And even with Michael Jordan pleading for them to change and the NBA, man, the white folks, man,
yeah.
But you can scream all your moral whatever, dude. If you ain't coming to the polls, them white folks don't care about that, man.
Exactly. And going to the polls is not enough if you don't know what you're gonna do before you get there.
Exactly.
If you don't understand who's running, why they're running, who they are they black, are they melanated, blah blah blah, how everything is, it's it's a web. And if you're not paying attention, you vote for somebody because they came to your church and end up voting against your own best interest. Okay, so last thing, if you could give everybody one takeaway from tonight's show, what would that one takeaway be?
I mean, governmental politics is serious.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the game, brother, you really are just very delusional about how this thing works. And that's the one takeaway.
Yeah.
You gotta and you gotta learn to use your mind on a multidimensional level, because the way that this thing is structured, man, there is no way you can figure out how all of this works if you don't get control of your mind. This shit is just too complex. Last week when Ken and I were in New Orleans helping Brother Troy, they had the Bessie board election going on. Bessie is BESE, is short for Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. And there was a terrific sister who was running, but she's not from Shreveport. And Caddo is the stronghold of these 10 parishes. There's 10 parish race. Here in Louisiana, we're the only state who has parishes. Everybody else in the country has counties.
Yeah.
And her name is Dr. Cassie Williams. She's a doctor, the whole nine. You know what the turnout was in that goddamn race? 10.1%.
Wow.
And you can blame all you want to the white folks or whatever. I've just come to realize after having a conversation last night with my artist on the project that I'm working on for Bayou Classic, our people are just stuck in idealism, romanticism, and fictional, just imagining to some of the most retarded concepts. And when I was laying this thing down to my artist, he was like, Craig, why is that? Why is the black man, a lot of these cats turning to being a savage? And I'm like, brother, listen, you're only 30-something years old. I've been doing this for over 3.5 decades. I already know the why in terms of the philosophy system and game of capitalism, white supremacy, racism. But the why is damn near irrelevant. It's damn near irrelevant. Why? Because no matter why, the only entity who can fix it is us.
Right. It is what it is.
So I said, what I want to know from you is what's your ideas to fixing the why?
What are you going to do?
Man, that dude said, we gotta tear up the system and start all over. I said, what they say in the hood, boy, bye.
Yeah.
Boy, bye.
All right, it's Q&A time. Brother Naru has turned his camera on, so as usual, let our brother kick it off. Your question, Naru, or comment?
I got a lot tonight.
Okay, well, go ahead, brother.
Well, the first thing I want to ask, this is just Brother Craig, do you know of another profession outside of the police, the judicial system, political system, the military system that have our lives in their hands?
Punk ass preachers.
That's a good one, but that ain't the one I'm thinking about. One more.
Okay, so that has our lives in their hands.
In their hands.
Doctor.
There you go. There you go. I knew you were sharp. Yeah. So Brother Craig, what does every doctor have to have in order to practice?
All right. He has to have the credentials. He or she has to have the credentials first and foremost.
Right.
Then they have to have malpractice.
There you go. That's the one I'm talking about right there, brother. That's the one I'm talking about right there. They have to have, say it again, brother.
Malpractice insurance.
So don't you think the police should have to have malpractice insurance when they have our lives in their hands and they can kill us? Do you know when the and I know you know this, when those settlements come up, they're coming out of our pocket. That's not coming out of police department. That's our money that these people are getting back.
Exactly.
The police are not paying that money.
Exactly.
And so I believe that we should have malpractice insurance for every police officer. They should have to mandatorily have to pay insurance for malpractice. I think that'll cut back on a lot of this shooting and acting the fool that they're doing.
I agree. No, I totally agree with you. And it's a good idea. We've discussed various forms of insurance with some of these entities, and that they don't call it that per se, but
right, a different thing. Right.
I like that terminology even with them, because even in the law profession, the legal profession, they have malpractice insurance, and they also have right underneath malpractice, they have errors and omissions insurance that lawyers have to carry, because they make various errors.
That's right.
That can impact people's well-being. That's not necessarily malpractice. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Oh, that's good. Okay, my other one is this. Let me see. I wrote it down. Let me grab it up real quick. Okay, so do you think police are necessary? And if not, how do we protect our community from savages? Because I know you like to use that word savages. So.
You got to have law enforcement, but not the current structure of what has existed in this society. But again, that can easily be changed where you're taking over your local governmental apparatus. If you don't have law enforcement, the majority of people are sheep. And if you go back to the Wild Wild West days, your Jesse James, your other outlaws, they took from whoever they wanted to take from. And if you couldn't mobilize a posse, a squad to handle your damn business, you just gonna get got. It's that damn simple. So, but in a civilized, pseudo-civilized society, you gotta have some law, you gotta have some order. And one of the things that's interesting that you asked that question, because when you talk about this realistically, when Negroes in the nation and this other group who talk about white folks giving Negroes 9 damn states and separating from the white man and all this kind of foolishness, it's like, look, man, look. Negroes don't even want to goddamn follow the cracker law. They don't even want to, they're willing to do all of this knowing they could get death penalty, knowing they could go to jail for 80, 90 years. You want me to believe that we now go separate and we ain't got no kind of military, no standards, or we go back to Africa and we ain't got no, law enforcement deal. You want me to believe that these Negroes are just going to abide by a particular ethical and moral code when they lack spirituality and right culture? Now, if you got spirituality and right culture, you don't need no goddamn police. You don't need no damn police. The unfortunate thing is the majority of our people, while they're good, there's about 15, 20% that is just straight up wrong, and they'll wreak havoc on most of these folks, man. They'll wreak havoc on them.
Now, back in the day, before crack came, we kind of policed our own blocks. So police the OG men on the block. We wouldn't, I wasn't letting dudes sell dope in front of my grandmama's house. I was like, nah, bro, you're gonna have to move that somewhere else. And then, we'll chase the crackheads off the block. No, nah, bro, you can't come over here, go somewhere else. You can't come over, so that seems to be a missing element now, like in communities like the OG dudes and the cats that, seem like they scared of the youngsters now, man.
Yeah, I just talked to OG the other day, and he let it be known. He said, man, he said, I don't even want to get in their way. I mean, here in Shreveport on Saturday, when Ken and I were in New Orleans, a brother got shot in the goddamn head and died at the scene because this dude said he skipped him in line.
Oh my goodness.
And he shot him right up in the head, brother. He just turned himself in yesterday or today. Wow. This is so people are afraid of that, and rightfully so. Now, I mean, I'm just being straight up because these cats. There was a nice sister who was buried, I think last week. She was shot by a Negro doing a drive-by. She just driving, and she got shot and then ran into a house, man. They caught his punk ass and whatnot. But this is, bro. Most people don't want to have to kill anybody. They don't even want to have to even think about holding a gun. So yeah, you got to have some measure of law enforcement going on in your community. But
law enforcement is not proactive, it's reactive. So by the time they get there, it's already done. So we need some type of proactiveness to stop it before it happens. That's kind of where I'm getting at. We need that.
You got to have an intel gathering apparatus, a hood CIA, a hood FBI that finds out about local, beefs in neighborhoods at the elementary, junior high, high school level, at the regular hood level, and then they swoop in, engage the party, give them a chance to have it mediated. And if they don't want to do that, you gotta have to put these Negroes down. It's that goddamn stuff. Yeah. And once you start putting some of these Negroes down, after you try to mediate with them, you'll get some act right. Once people see that there's a legitimate just force that'll put these Negroes on their ass, trust me, the community will feel safe, and then they'll start to, participate in policing themselves.
Thank you. That's a good one. One more thing I want to say, I don't know how it is in most communities, but a lot of communities that I know about, the Black Muslims are the ones who are mediators in the community on several occasions. I know it happens here in my city. They are respected by both sides because a lot of them come from the hood and turn into the religious. And I know we're not into the religious thing, but I will say that I have seen the brothers come and they get respect from the gangsters and from the whole community. And they are able to mediate some of the differences. So I want to give them their props about that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And we're going to be integrating them, although they don't do a lot of things here in the city. That is one area that they can be used in. And I told my colleague Marvin T. Muhammad that we'll use the nation as a part of our solution for that. So I agree with you.
Respect. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So does anyone else have a question or comment for Brother Craig before we close this thing out? Anybody else? Any questions or comment? Brother Ken?
Good evening, everybody. Brother Naru, you were dead on point there at last Tuesday morning breakfast that came up about policing our own. And I was reminded about the Puerto Rican brother Slywa in New York.
Yeah.
Where they formed the Guardian Angels, and they were all over the boroughs, of the boroughs in New York. Right. And actually the law enforcement was the one that put pressure on them to stand down. That was the bad part about it, So we actually should be policing our own, and that's where it should start with us, because one sister alluded to, well, just give the bad guys over to the police. Okay, if you do that, then there's not going to be a filter, you know, and then they're going to come in there and shake the good people down. And it'll be a canvas type deal where good people get shaken down with the bad, and we'll still have what we have today, you know, giving them permission to come in and shake it down. But I quickly want Craig to run down real quick something we talked about earlier about the ratio of shootings of whites and blacks. Because a lot of people, you know, dispel this thing like the myth of the old welfare, where the whites had it like blacks were getting more blacks on welfare. We know that's the big premise and the big lie. Okay, but the same thing holds true for these police shootings. I wanted to just touch quickly on the truth of the numbers and why that's being pushed out the way that it is and projected.
Yeah, and I'm glad you referenced that, Brother Ken. One of the sad realities about this game that's being played on our people, and I think I sent this to Money, but it's a very good article from the Washington Post, and I'll send it to everybody if you don't have it. And it's about fatal force. And the article, the title says 985 people have been shot and killed by the police in the past year. And if you look at all of the media coverage, you'll believe the only people that's getting shot and killed are Negroes. You'll believe that.
Yep.
That's a goddamn lie.
Yep.
Goddamn lie. And the Negroes are bought into it now. But the majority of people who are killed every year by the police, law enforcement, are white. Now, when you're having enlightened discussions with folks, I always test them to see by asking basic questions. You know, if what y'all are saying is correct about all these, you know, melanated people getting killed, explain why any white folks are killed at all. Well, Craig, you got to understand there are more white folks in the country than African Americans. No, let's stop right there. The narrative is being created that the only people who are being taken out are African Americans, Latinos, basically. All right. But the reality is something totally different. So if the reality is that white folks are killed, the number is greater, okay, by white folks, then why isn't that being reported? Now, what they try to sell you, and like Ken said, with the welfare issue, they'll play up the percentages, okay? They'll play up the percentages that more blacks are on welfare than white, okay? And then now, when that comes up, Negroes want to flip it and say, no, there are more white on welfare numerically, but because our numbers, total population numbers, are lower, our percentages are higher, but there are more white folks. They go into paint on that. But see, the same concept exists for this goddamn police murder thing. There are more white folks in America, but there are more white folks who get murdered. Follow me now. There are fewer, that's like 90 million white folks in this country. There are almost 50 million African descendants in this country. So now they play up the concept that the higher percentage, blacks are killed at a higher rate than white folks. You see that game? See, so they're killed at a higher percentage, but they don't cover the white murder by law enforcement. Because if you look at the news coverage, you'll damn near believe ain't no white folks getting killed by white folks. I mean, think of a case. Just think of a case over the past 10 years where a white person was killed by law enforcement that really just galvanize the country.
Yeah.
So now you got to ask yourself, why is that? And I'm telling you that there's a concerted effort to make sure that the majority of white folks always stay lockstep and bear with law enforcement. But if it was shown, the truth was shown, that the majority of people in the country each year that are killed are white folks, ooh, that would be a very good way of gaining alliances with grassroots white folks about these issues and then having them reported.
Yeah.
But as it stands right now, the only thing that catches major news are African Americans who are murdered by white police officers or law enforcement. But this article is so powerful, and they talk about Black Americans are killed at a much higher rate than white Americans, just based on the population deal. But we still got to deal with the numerical representation of what is going on and why coverage is not laid out from that standpoint. And in this article, they go over, like, I think since 2015, a lot of the killings, not even all of the killings. They just deal with the police killings, like the Michael Brown case. They don't get into a lot of the other killings and whatnot, because then there would be even more to actually report. But there are more white folks numerically murdered in America every year by law enforcement than African descendants. But you'll never see that you'll never see it.
You have not sent me that article, so please do so. If you did, I missed it, so send it again. Yeah. Okay, cool. Anybody else got a question or comment for Brother Craig?
I just want to say one quick thing, Brad. Is this thing going around on Facebook, YouTube? Is this young man? He's talking to his little brother. He's got to be about 10 or 9. And Craig, you're gonna like this. He said, "A poor man's mind is a rich man's idea."
Yeah.
Come on now.
That's
Come
heavy.
on. Kid, brother. A young kid. Is that on point or what? I just wanted to drop that on y'all.
That's beautiful.
That's powerful.
I'm gonna share that to y'all. I'm gonna share that with y'all. Man, the young man on point, man.
Yeah. That goes to what Brother Craig always says.
I know.
The revolution starts in your head.
That's right.
Because if you can't think it, you certainly ain't gonna do nothing about it. So yeah, amen. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Made my day.
Shoot, I'm with you, bro. Okay, Brother Craig, closing comments.
All right, and what I'm doing right now, so you can send this to everybody. I'm sending it in the chat with you and
okay.
Boy.
I got it. Just popped up.
I want to thank everybody for coming to participate tonight, and I want to leave you all with some questions. Who controls law enforcement at the local level? Who controls the DA's office? Who controls city court judges? Who controls district court judges? Who controls state Supreme Court judges? Who controls the mayor's office? Who controls the local legislation? Who controls it could be any damn thing, your coroner's office? Who controls all of these positions? The damn people.
Yep.
The damn people. And we've never in the history of this country put together a grassroots team. And that's why we are not in control. I don't give a damn how hardcore the system is. We've shown, there's been evidence that shows bourgeoisie Negroes have risen to power, and they pimp grassroots people to believe that they're on the same team. I'm saying And what we're saying with the BGN is that we have an opportunity to position grassroots hybrid Black to become the leadership in majority African-American towns and cities. Because all of what is being discussed, I don't give a damn how they try to make it, you know, the emotions, all of this gets down to getting involved in the process and making this shit happen, period. And so if you understand that the voters have the power, we got to now put our grassroots team together and take over these positions in majority Black spaces in the United States. And then you can now, you know, position those individuals who roll with your philosophy, your agenda, to now take care of your politics. And that's the only way that we're going to ever change up what's going on in this country. Appreciate you.
And if we don't do that, then these things, these egregious injustices are simply going to continue to happen. Because as I always say, what happens to Black people happens because we don't have the power to stop it. And we don't have the power to stop it because we have yet to take time to understand how to get that power and how power works. So always remember two things: no one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. And absolutely always remember that nothing is more sacred than the freedom and empowerment of Black people. I'm going to leave you guys with this video that Brother Naru just shared with me. It's only a minute or so. So when the video is done, I'm going to log off. Y'all have a groovy evening and, and a nice night. So let me share this video since Brother Naru just talked about it. He just shared it. And once it's done, I'm going to log off.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
I always have the right mindset. I meet so many people in life who say that they're broke or they're depressed, they're stressed out, but at the end of the day, that's all a mindset. I remember posting something on Instagram that said, "Don't be afraid to travel." And someone said, "King, I'm not afraid to travel, I'm just broke." And the thing is, I never came from a rich family, but the difference is I had a dream and I took my dream to different places, and that's what got me to traveling the world. A poor man's mind was a rich man's idea. It's the way you think, it's the way you produce, it's the way you create. You have to be creative. You know, there's some people that may have one house and go, "Oh, I'm broke because I got one house." But there's another person that has two houses and they may feel like they're broke because they only have two houses. But there's another person who has less. There's some people who are like, "Oh, I'm poor," because they have a harsh reality and they may have to go and eat out of the garbage can. But in another country, there's no garbage can to eat out of. So you have to value every single thing you have. You have to value every moment. So I could feel like, "Oh, I'm not in a big enough house," or "I don't have the nicest car," or "I don't have the coolest, newest phone." But there's someone in this world praying for the house that I may have, praying for the phone that I may have, praying for the things that I may have around me. And not just me, but people in general. So always keep that mindset and be appreciative of everything you have. Every little thing. Even life, basically. There's some people who, it's a person who didn't wake up this morning, it's a person who lost their family member, and now they don't have life.
So just have a growth mindset.
Yeah, just have a growth mindset, my man, Kingston.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Bro, man, hey, I'll follow him too.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And I've seen that video a few years ago, so he should be well into, hell, he should be going to college at this point. But yeah, heavy video, brother. Thank you, Naru, for sharing. I appreciate it. As always, you guys have a wonderful evening. God bless.
All right.
Peace.